welcome to the Fertility Conversations podcast. The goal of this podcast is to create more awareness about infertility and to provide support to people trying to conceive. Thank you for listening today, and we hope you will be encouraged. And now, here is your host, Ola.
Welcome to episode 35. Today I'm joined by fellow infertility warrior Kurai from Zimbabwe. She'll be sharing her journey with us today, her journey to becoming a parent. To connect with her on Instagram, handle is at IVF South Africa. Her details would also be in the show notes. So welcome, Kurai, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Ola. Thanks for having me.
Yay. So to start off, we always say, tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. My name is Kurai. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. I currently reside in South Africa, where I went to university and just decided to stay, I guess. So I've probably lived here more than I have lived, I think, in my home country, or probably because I'm 38. So I've literally lived half my life in Zimbabwe and half my life in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're both. You're Zimbabwean and South African.
No. I'm very, when it comes to identity, it's one of those, I'm very much Zimbabwean. Like,
oh, wow.
Through and through. I just reside and I work here and live here. But yeah.
Sounds good. And how did you and your spouse meet?
Oh, how did we meet?
Yeah.
There's always two sides to a story. But yeah, just the long and not even the long, the short version is we met at university when I was in my second year and he was in his third year of university. So we met because a friend of mine caught a bus ride from Zim to school with him. And that's how we started talking. So I met him at varsity.
Oh, that's nice. I guess that's a good thing about coming to university in South Africa. Hey,
you can meet a spouse.
You know what I mean? You never know.
You never know.
And so just because we're going to be talking about fertility today and infertility, I wanted to ask, was there a particular time that you knew you wanted to become a mom?
I don't think when I look back, I can really pinpoint to a certain time and I say, oh no, when I was 15 or when I was this age, I really was like, oh my goodness, I'd like to be a mom. Mm-hmm. Probably in just from a subconscious perspective, like I just always just knew, or maybe it's just one of those where you think to yourself, it's just a natural progression of how life would be. At some point I'm going to get married. At some point I'm going to then eventually become a mom, but I don't think it was a very conscious sort of decision. No, not even decision, but like a memory that I would be able to go back to and say at that age, I wanted to be that.
Oh, okay. I just always wonder because, sometimes I'm not sure how it is in Zimbabwe or South Africa, but in Nigeria, of course, I think it's always assumed you're going to become a mom. So, and when you're growing up as a child, you keep, every time they ask you, what do you want to become? It's like, I want to become a mom just because it seems everyone talks about that.
No, I think there is an expectation. I think there is an expectation. You all know there is an expectation, but I do not think it is, or like it was probably in my sort of front to say, oh no, that is exactly
right.
Eventually, I'm going to be that. But maybe it's because of the fact that anyway, it's expected. I'd never tossed with the idea of saying, no, not really.
Yeah. Wonderful. So now let's go into your fertility journey so far. Could you please share that with us? Whatever you want to share.
So the fertility journey, what I did know is when I got married, I remember saying that I do not want to immediately then have kids. So I got married when I was 30. 2012. Yes, it's the year that I turned 30. Then I got married. And I remember thinking, oh no, I do not want to, I want to wait a couple of years and then only then later on decide to say, oh no, that's when I would like to have kids, because I just thought to myself, I want to just have time where it's just my husband, myself. Being a parent comes with responsibility and all of that. So no, I then said, oh, okay, we'll wait a couple of years. I think we only then decided to start trying to have a child in 2015. Didn't really think much of it. I guess, you at some point you have sex and at some point, you will get pregnant, that sort of thing. And I remember a colleague, so after a couple of months, you as people tend to do, or women tend to do, you start talking and then you say to someone, oh no, I've been trying, but nothing seems to be working out. It's the first time someone ever said to me, oh, do you know about an ovulation kit? And I remember going, what? You've heard ovulation, but like, I didn't know, like, you could track this, right?
Yeah.
She says, no, you go get this. Anyway, she tells me, I go get an ovulation kit. Now I'm like, listen here, Halbi, this is how it's going to happen. Apparently, you do this on a certain day. And, tried that, timed the intercourse, all of that stuff. Nothing is happening, right? But didn't think really much anything of it because, it's probably like month 1, month 2 sort of thing. So, oh, well, it is what it is. We just, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, oh, well, there's no real pressure to say by this time I want to be like pregnant. Mm-hmm. And because of the whole timing of the intercourse and stuff like that, I then figure out, oh no, certain day I'm ovulating. And I remember, got pregnant naturally. And then I think probably 5 or 6 weeks into it, I remember going to the gynae for the first time. So it was just a normal, typical test that you do, pee on a stick, and it says positive. And you're like, oh, okay. I went to my GP, had a blood test, and it was also confirmed pregnant. Said, oh no, don't, I guess wait a while and before you go to the gynae and all of those things. Got there. Oh no, everything is fine. Then the gynae, what piqued my interest, he said something like, oh no, you are probably like, oh no, you're only like 5 weeks pregnant. So this, I said to him, no, it's impossible because I know when it is that I conceived. And I remember him saying something that didn't sit well with me to the point where I knew when I left the the consultation room, that I knew I was not coming back to this gynae. So he says to me, oh no, women always never know when they get pregnant. And so I thought, no. I know it because of the fact that it was timed. So I was irritated of his dismissiveness. And I said, I don't want to ever come back. Anyway, I then leave. But on that particular day, I go back to the office, and when I go back to the office, I start bleeding. As we all do, you Dr. Google it, listen here, what's going on, Dr. Google. Dr. Google says, oh no, it's typical, in pregnancy to have that or whatever it is. I then later on call my original gynae, my normal gynae that I go to, and he says, oh no, you must come in. I go in, I realized, oh no, miscarriage, or I'm in the process of miscarrying or whatever. So that happened, had to have the DNC. So the first pregnancy, I guess, then did not work out. Go back to the gynae a couple of weeks later on. Oh no, don't worry about it. Do you know what? It happens in most first trimesters. No real reason why it probably just happens. It's 1 in 4 or 1 in whatever number they tell you that there is. So no, and then when you're young, don't worry about it. So when he's saying I'm young, I am 30. If it's 2015, I am 33. Can I calculate? I think I am 33. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess, it is that. I carry on. We keep on trying, go back. No, man, you're still young. You're this, that. Talking to colleagues again, you hear about the Clomid, your Fertility, and that sort of thing. I go back to him, listen here, why won't you put me on this? Because, other people are saying it's working out and stuff like that. No, I don't think it's necessary and whatever. Carry on. So fast forward, and we are at the end of 2016, and then I discovered, oh no, my fibroids are back. So I've had fibroids. I'd had surgery before where it was a myomectomy removing fibroids. So those are back. So anyway, let's first deal with those. Maybe that's what's causing the trying to get pregnant and not working out. So I have the surgery. It pauses the treatment. Oh, not even the treatment yet. So it pauses the whole trying to make that trying to have a baby until I'm healed up and whatever. So now we're in 2017. Well, no. We're in 2016. I then say to the doctor, I go back, listen here, something is just not right because I keep on trying for months and, and nothing is happening. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, again, I thought to myself, no, self-advocate. Do you know what? I'm going to go seek a fertility specialist. I go and try Dr. Google, but I knew I just don't want to now go on and wing this with regards to it. And coincidentally, my husband, his therapist, had also suffered from infertility and suggested the clinic that I went to. Eventually, went to that clinic, did the battery of tests. And then I was diagnosed with low ovarian reserve. And that I think one of my tubes was obstructed because of the previous surgeries and the fibroids that I had before. So because of adhesions. So then he says, okay, let's try IUI. No. Before I went to IUI, he did the whole treated cycle. Did, I think, 2 rounds of a treated cycle, one without a trigger shot, one with natural intercourse or something like that. Both did not work out. I guess upped the ante and then went to IUI. And then still that did not work out. Then he says, I guess our last option that we'll try would be IVF. Now, the clinic was a clinic that was a bit on the pricier side, and I knew I was definitely not able to afford it. So our search quickly turned into the cheapest IVF in Johannesburg, or in South Africa, really. And I bumped into a blog that had been written years ago by another lady, and she had just written about the fact that you can get IVF at 3 government hospitals within South Africa. And Steve Biko, which happens to be in the province that I live, which is in Pretoria, offered that. So yeah, they went to Steve Biko, did the consultations there, battery of tests again and stuff like that, confirmed that we have to have IVF, did my first round of IVF. I remember thinking, the needles are daunting. I'm not going to be able to self-administer these. I never self-administered, not even a single one, never. So yeah, did the first round of IVF and it worked. Literally, pregnancy announcements that are Pinterest worthy and everything that goes with it, sent it to every person that I knew. Because I remember after the first miscarriage, because my husband had said, oh no, we mustn't tell anyone about the pregnancy until we're like 3 months. And then I remember I literally turned around and said, oh, so what if something then happens? So what do we do? Do we still tell the people or not tell the people? And then when something then did happen, I was like, I'll never ever let this ever happen again, because for me, I really felt like I wanted to literally have God praised because of the fact that, he had blessed me with a child. But because of the fact that now that had not happened, the only news you're telling people is like, oh no, we've had a miscarriage. And the only reason why we probably felt like we should tell people is because I was going in for surgery, and I live far away from my family. So I guess we tell them out of, oh no, this is what's happening, and just in case. Anyway, so the second time around, I was like, I'm telling everybody, I told everybody. And then it turned out that it was an ectopic pregnancy. Okay, take some methotrexate. Take the methotrexate, and we will just hope that wherever the pregnancy is lying, I guess it will deal with it. And I remember before I took the methotrexate, so I said to the doctor, okay, fine, I'll take it. They bring it in, and I was like, you know what, not today. Let me just give God one more chance. From the perspective of I want to go home, and I'm going to ask God to just work out a miracle for me, because I don't think I want to, this is not going to happen. Anyway, went. I remember screaming on the top of my lungs when I got in this very room. I remember just screaming and going, God, what's a pregnancy to you? If you can move mountains, what's a pregnancy that's probably less than how they say, oh no, it's the size of a mustard seed, or it's the size of this now, or poppy seed, whatever they say our sizes of pregnancies are. So I thought, if that's, who you are, what is that? Anyway, that did not happen. So I went back, took the methotrexate, and hoped for the best. And I remember a few days later on thinking, oh no, man, I've got these terrible cramps and something's just not right. Went back, realized, oh no, I am bleeding internally. Had to go and get emergency surgery for them to remove one of my tubes, because that's where the bleeding was. And then it turns out that's where the methotrexate had not worked. So I ended up losing one of my tubes. But I guess with IVF, knowing that I was going to be on it, I didn't necessarily need the tubes, because IVF would, fill that gap. So that cycle, I guess, in the end did not work out. So it didn't result in a pregnancy that was carried to term. Rested for a couple of months, I think, and then went back. Did my second cycle, and my second cycle was successful, and it resulted in my son Arikweshe. So yeah, that is just like the journey. I hope I didn't take like long-winded.
No, it was great. Thanks so much for sharing. I'm so sorry about your losses. And we're thankful for your handsome young son.
Yeah.
Just actually ask a question. When you had two losses, and then you had your pregnancy with your son. Did it impact how you felt? Like, were you worried? Were you scared? What was?
You mean during the
The
pregnancy and
pregnancy,
stuff?
yeah.
I was thinking about that because somebody else asked me the question, and I thought, was I terrified? And knowing what I know now about that, just because you're pregnant does not mean you're going to carry to full term.
Mm-hmm.
It has probably sort of like it. I mean, it's not as if I've never heard of people, refer to stillbirth or to say, oh no, the pregnancy was cut short prematurely at X amount of weeks or something like that. But I never sort of, I don't remember being fearful. I don't remember worrying and saying, am I going to carry this person to term? Because I think in my head, what my body was failing to do, in my head, what I concluded that it was failing to do was just to get me pregnant. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right.
So my thinking was, my hurdle was getting pregnant. And now that I've gotten pregnant, I guess we're on our way, and that's it. So I don't think I ever had that, or a fear of, oh no, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do the other, because of the fact that, oh no, this might happen or this might not happen. I don't know. I don't recall that. I remember exercising throughout. I remember I was just like, people are like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that you were pregnant, or I didn't realize. And I remember just thinking, oh yeah, I am. But I was not, telling Tom, Dick, Barry, and whoever.
Mm-hmm.
But it was because of just, I was choosing not to, not necessarily because I was fearful of, oh no, that would happen, or the next thing would happen. But I just thought to myself, my uterus, my business, those who are close, if they know, that sort of thing.
Pretty much.
But no, I don't remember having a fear or having some sort of trepidation during the pregnancy.
Wow.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing. Do you think faith played any role? I mean, I know you mentioned you praying to God for the ectopic, but what role do you think faith played?
I think faith played like a major role. It's major to the point where I say this story. So, if you're raised in a Christian home, you are, I guess by default, you're Christian. I mean,
pretty much.
You wake up every day, somebody's going to tell you, we say, our Father, before you eat, you pray.
Yeah.
Before you do that, it's you're Christian. But I don't think you're a Christian to the extent of saying, personally, it is a choice that I have made to say, this is the path that I would like to, to go on. Mm-hmm. So I think you go through the motions of, oh no, I'm Christian, I'm this, that, you pray, I guess because this is how I know to live out life. But I think for me, this journey really, I think, then led me to have a personal relationship where I think I understood God's role in my life from the perspective of, I think I always believe I'm a person who's like, if I work hard, I'll get what I want. If I have my ducks in a row, when they say you can't pass this exam, they don't know me, I can sit. I'm Zimbabwean. Hey, we are, it's indoctrinated in us. You will sit here and have, study all night because you want that A. Yeah. Your parents tell you education is everything. That's how you can escape poverty. That, that sort of thing. So in my head, I've done everything by the book. I didn't get pregnant before a certain age. I have a decent job. Our finances are looking okay. So therefore, everything is stacked. We have planned, right? Mm-hmm. This is exactly how our life is going to sort of pan out. And then this one thing, okay, you have planned, cool. But I'll show you who God is. Because as perfect as your plan was, no matter how much I willed it, no matter how much I wanted it, it has made me know that really when people say I count it all joy, I never understood this. When I say never, I used to say, I don't know, this was probably written for, this was James, God's brother. So surely he can say that. Right. But for me now, I really and absolutely say this is my testimony to say I have seen who God is. To really believe when people say I count it all joy, because I always think this. I think if I had gotten it in a way that was just so easy, or not even easy, I mustn't say that, loosely, but like in a way that was just, okay, Kurai's arranged a life and there she goes and then she has a child. I do not think I would have placed God in any of that or given him a rightful place in my life, because everything seemed to have just happened because I work hard, I am this, and all of those things. So really for me, faith played a big role because of the fact that it really made me go on and say, who is God in my life? And the person who goes in and says, he is everything and more of that. Yes, science played a role because he gave those people intelligence enough to be able to do that. But the ultimate person who said yes or whatever was God.
Yeah.
So that's, for me, it was a major role from the perspective of when I thought I was losing it, because this journey is a roller coaster ride. One minute you're like, oh my goodness, they say the lining is like X centimeters. Oh my god. You know how like you're on the moon, like you are on top of the stars and it's centimeters or something, right? And the next day someone says, I don't know what's going on, but it's not as responsive. And then you're thinking, but listen, weren't we on top of the mountains now? How are we at the bottom of this again? I went back into, and lately I do it often, where I go back into my old WhatsApps during those periods, and I'm like, I just wanted to understand like my psyche at that point or whatever. But I remember the one thing that my sisters would just do was I would literally just write, today's a crappy day, and it was just them saying, and sometimes I'd say, I don't even know what to pray to God, because I just don't have the words. And all I would do was be crying, right? Just crying. And I remember one thing that stood out was my sister sent me an image, and he says he collects every tear, right? And he says the Holy Spirit groans on your behalf. And you think, oh, really? But because of this, I know that, because I could not formulate words to say, what it is that I want. Where you end up just saying, what it is, and it's just floods of tears and just that. So for me, faith kept me sane. It kept me sane from the perspective of just knowing he's reigning above it all. Like he's not pacing up and down heaven thinking, oh my goodness, I kind of forgot about cry today. And oh man, he's, she's crying and she's in distress. I have not, because he says he's seated. Now imagine that, but that's what it was for me. A God who kept me intact, knowing who he is and giving him his rightful place. That's what this journey has done for me.
Wow.
That's what it's done for me.
Well said. So beautiful. And what a wonderful testimony you have. Such a blessing. Thank God. And in your journey, you mentioned your sisters and speaking with them and crying to them. I just wonder, did you have any other friends or family members dealing with infertility at the same time?
No, I've never. I remember one of the posts that I wrote, and my only time I ever heard reference to infertility was like, when your older aunties are gossiping and you're young, right? Like you're sort of conscious of, I don't think this is appropriate. But it's not like you can turn around and go, I don't think that's appropriate, that we should be talking about someone's, and you're young. And that was the only reference, but it was a reference that almost had like a negative connotation, like a snickering or a sniggering that you knew something was just not right. Because if it was something that was okay to say, surely they would be saying it in front of her, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think I sort of just knew from a young age, oh, that didn't seem right. But you can't really verbalize it to really say, what does that really mean? And now that I'm older, it's that whole thing that we keep on talking about, the whole stigma thing, from a cultural perspective. Oh, there must be something wrong with her. And later on, as I grew older, I think what I discovered was that it was an aunt who had lost her babies when they were really in their infancy and stuff. And I just remember just thinking, oh, that's what that was about. But it was being said in hushed tones or whatever it is, because I guess of the stigma that's associated with it. I had never heard any of my friends or my relatives ever talking about, oh no, we had a miscarriage or anything like that. I really don't recall that. So literally this was like a solo journey. And then when I was in a connect group, a group from church, and we were praying, so we were in the thick of our infertility journey, and literally I remember just bursting out in tears and just crying and just saying, listen guys, could you just pray for us from the perspective of this whole infertility treatment that we're going through and that sort of thing. And I remember a friend within the same group, it turned out that we were at the same fertility clinic and had the same doctor.
Oh my.
But nobody had ever said it. But I remember then that her husband is the one who literally piped up and said, oh no, we're going through something like that as well. And the lady's house where we're at, she had gone through infertility in Zimbabwe. And I remember her inviting us for lunch like the next week, just because, and when they shared their story with us, I remember it had like a liberating thing, because where I thought to myself, finally, I can just probably just say this with people who are beyond my family or beyond whoever it is, because, hey, what are the odds? 3 people who are sitting in this room have all experienced this. So that was the first time I ever experienced somebody else, or having somebody else also go on and share their story.
And that's amazing, though.
Experience.
Yeah, it's amazing that you spoke out, and if you hadn't, you wouldn't have realized there was someone else right there also going through the same thing.
And that friend of mine used to be like my running partner, and you think to yourself, at no point do you ever say, hey, but, guy, this is what I'm going through. Not necessarily that, it never came up. And I just, it never occurred to me to probably actually say it and say, oh no, so what's happening with you? Because you always assume it must be happening so easy for everybody else. I mean, It must be I must be the only one going through this.
Because no one is talking about it, right? So it's like, it must just be you. Wow. Which brings me back to the next question, actually. The fact that you spoke up and then found out someone else was dealing with it. And of course, as you might realize, I'm sure in Zimbabwe, it might be the same. In Nigeria, people don't talk about infertility, even though I know lots of people are dealing with it. But I think for some reason, there's just so much taboo and stigma, like you mentioned earlier. So what made you start speaking about infertility and your experience so openly? I'm sure that this is not really popular in the sense that not lots of people are doing it.
I think it was that very reason, knowing that it's not spoken about and it's not being, and I thought to myself, why not? And like I said to you, the reason why I found Steve Biko was because somebody wrote a blog about it.
Exactly.
I think to myself, if they had never ever written a blog about it, I would it had never occurred to me. And I'll tell you this much, like with government hospitals, it's literally like, oh, if you go to government, you must have a death wish. Right? You must want some malpractice sort of lawsuit to be suing the government for something or the other. But it's because of that. So therefore, it had never occurred to me that surely there must be different departments at a hospital that that go on and deal with this sort of stuff. Never. So I remember just thinking to myself, it is probably my way of paying it forward because of what another person did. They shared, because of their experience, they decided to write a blog. I then Google, I then find this. And that's why I think for me, I even said when I started I'll start the page. And you were asking me, why is it called IVF South Africa? And I'm Zimbabwean. It was because whenever I used to search, looking for something, like information with regards to IVF in South Africa, I would always type out IVF South Africa. And I guess it's a search engine optimization. And because I just thought to myself, surely that's what, the first thought or what I thought to search would be, was that to say IVF South Africa. And that's the real reason why I started it, just from the perspective of I wanted to be a signpost or a source of some sort of information of my experience within South Africa, that other people who are like me, who are of similar circumstances like me, who were saying, yes, I've got the knowledge that I could go and get this treatment, but I can't afford it in a private clinic or something like that. So at least they now know that there's a Steve Biko. They've got an option that is way cheaper compared to a private clinic. So so that's the real reason for me speaking out, to just hope that I'll be a source of information for somebody who's trying to navigate this journey within South Africa.
Yeah. And that's wonderful. It is, actually, because I know lots of people will see your page, see what you're doing, and just maybe even silently just read your experience and feel encouraged to know that there's somebody else that dealt with something similar. So that's wonderful that you're doing that. Has there been any, I don't want to say, how have people, maybe that's the right question, how have people responded? Just random public, or when you share a video and you show your face? Because again, many times, even when We set up accounts to share this information. Many times we don't want to show our faces just because you don't want people to identify it with yourself. So, you know, and of course, many of your very first videos, maybe even the first one, you know, your face was right there. You did it live like a video. So I'm just wondering, how do people receive that?
I remember taking the plunge. So I had opened the page.
Yeah.
I had also nothing personal on my page. Like literally, if you probably go back to my page, like literally, I only started really posting consistently and doing all the stuff. Lockdown will
Yeah, lockdown.
Make you realize you've got so much time on your hands. You might as well learn a new skill, right?
Yeah, 2020.
So literally, I remember saying to myself, "Oh my goodness, I've always wanted to start this YouTube thing." And my sister said, "Do you know what? We're tired of it. We've heard it for so many years. That page that you call whatever your Instagram page, please." One joke, like literally my first post is like a joke or something that says if people say money can't buy you happiness, they've never tried IVF. Literally,
which is true.
So that's how literally I used to be wanting to be a source. I don't know whether I would have been a great source with jokes on it. Anyway, it would have lightened the load. So I remember, so my sisters then said to me, "Listen here, just do something." And I literally did. I swear, I'm sure that video is probably probably if it's at most, it's like a minute or a minute and a half. And I literally was just saying, the reason why I'm doing this is because of the fact that I wanted to see a person who looked like me, who shared my circumstances, who came from an environment that said, you can't do this, who said, no, you can't speak up about this. And I just thought to myself, why not challenge? And my first video was, I think, you know, would have challenged a couple of people just to say, I want to speak about it from an African perspective, from a Black perspective. And I don't take that lightly because I just think to myself, and I hope it comes across that literally it's not necessarily to say I want it to be to the exclusion of anybody who's of a different color to me, but I want to be able to go on and show to a person who looks like me, sounds like me, has the same sort of circumstances that are like mine, to say you can have this, you can do this. There are ways for us to be able to do this, because I think if you go into the world of this whole social media thing, you can feel like you're drowning and think to yourself, how come I haven't even seen anybody who looks like me? So really, I don't think it's for people like me, let alone because our communities are not even talking about it. So really, surely it must be for people who are not like us. Why do I decide? I think the response has really been positive. Wonderful. I remember just from that video, the amount of responses that I got, like literally, you know, relatives that you haven't heard from like in a minute. I heard from friends from high school. I heard from, and people were literally just rooting me on and saying, oh my goodness, this is like, you know, like, this is really, really brilliant. Well done for doing this. You're so brave. And I just thought, I don't know whether I sit well with that whole statement of you're so brave, because I think,
well,
I don't think there's anything.
It is hugely. It is very brave.
Do you know, I think to myself, what people are already going through on these journeys is brave. You know, to embark on this and to say, I'm going for it with all the roller coasterness of this, you know, sort of thing. I'm hoping it'll get to one day where we don't say you're brave, but we say, you know, oh man, oh yeah, I kind of knew that. I've already tried that, because of the fact that we're just talking about it and becomes, you know, are you either buying brown bread, Hovis, or are you buying Albany or whatever it is? Oh no, you should try the Hovis. It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, exactly. I hope it'll get to, but the reception has been brilliant. A lot of people actually saying the same thing about, oh no, thank goodness you said this, because I didn't think this could ever happen for me. Oh my goodness. Oh, you did go through the whole government thing. I was always so scared, because I just, you know, I would always have these bad sort of people reviews with regards to, oh my, you know, you don't want to go to a government hospital. But no, so the reception has been good. Really, I would be lying if I said I've ever seen a comment that made me just go, are you kidding me? No. No. So it just goes to show that people probably do, you know, they were yearning for stuff like this, or, you know,
Well done. And I love you did something as well for I can't remember the name now, but there was a wedding company in South Africa that you also work with.
So it's these wedding pages. I'm sure you guys have, you know, like similar pages, like your Wedding Digest, or
Bella Niger
really
weddings.
Bella Niger weddings. So literally, I just did this. My sister said on a whim, like, she used to follow that page, and then she said, listen, yeah, they had this other lady who was sharing her story, and her story had to do with, so they titled the series, oh my goodness, I can't even remember now this, as soon as I was saying it. But in any event, so she titled this, it had something to do with the fact that she had been in an abusive relationship and she was just sharing a story. And their thing, I guess, was to do with the fact that, also they titled it A Journey of 1,000 Miles. So my sister saw this and then she said, listen, yeah, I think this would be a really brilliant thing because of the fact that in as much as, yes, it's a wedding page, but they are more of, it's not only about the wedding day, but literally like what happens afterwards. Do you know what I mean? Like we all celebrate these brilliant weddings of ours because of the fact that, yeah, we should.
Exactly.
But I think also to just be really truthful of, okay, it's not they lived happily ever after. Or it's, yes, they did live happily ever after, but they'd gone through, left, right, up, down, because that's how life is like. It's not going to be first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes a baby in a baby carriage. It doesn't look like that for everybody. And they wanted to showcase that. So I literally on a whim wrote and said, hi, this is me and this is my story. Wondering if you guys are interested. And they were like, oh my goodness, come on board. We would love to do this. And that's exactly how I did it. So I did it with the first weddings page. And then I went and did it again on another wedding page that's called Zim Weddings as well. And it was the same reception, like literally, oh my goodness, this will be so brilliant. I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate this. And they did, like literally, I remember just thinking the amount of messages that I got from the inbox, just people asking, oh my goodness, so if this is happening, where can I get it? How can I do it? And stuff like that. And yeah, it was just literally that way. I just thought to myself, why not reach out to places that I would think just sharing my story would be able to go on and have more, like, a greater audience that would, you never know, someone's sister sitting there and their sister's going through this and they would be able to say, hey, guess what? There is hope out there. And that's what I hope just, sharing my story does for other people, to just go on and say there's hope.
Exactly. Well done. It's really, really amazing. And it's just, it's so true how you mentioned, when we all focus a lot on the weddings, we need to also have those conversations, just letting people know that different people have different paths and different things could happen. It might not happen to you. You're not trying to scare them, but creating a vision of reality of what different options. So,
because I guess the greatest disappointment is everybody's painted these fairy tales, and then when they're not happening like that, we are either questioning ourselves and thinking we are inadequate.
Exactly.
Because if it's happening for Ola in that way, how come it's not happening for me in that way? Is there something wrong with me? What have I not done? What am I doing wrong? Because we internalize a whole lot of the stuff with regards to that, because society says it's supposed to look like X. And if it's not looking like that, what's going on? Somebody must be to blame. Yeah.
Exactly. So thank you so much. And we need more of that to adequately prepare youth and other people coming behind us. So well done. Thank you. And we hope that your bravery would lead other women and men to share their stories as well. So wonderful. Now, of course, because we're talking about marriages and infertility, I wonder, was there any impact on your relationship with your husband, the infertility journey?
I think, I'm sure if you would walk out of this sentence, it had no impact, I'm not sure what any one of you would be made of. Like, I like, if this does not change you on some level, I don't know what will, and I think it's got different facets. And during the time, I remember when we did the live, so I say to my husband, so for starters with the live, I say to my husband, I know you do not want to really get involved, okay, but whenever we do this, please may we do it together. And the reason why I said that, I said because I want to frame this and phrase it in a way that goes on and says, when people do this, it's two people who are doing it.
Yes.
It's saying to another guy who's sitting there, look at how macho and manly this guy looks and is still with the girl who could, who had some sort of infertility item, and they can have a laugh and they're still cool, and nothing about him takes away his manhood just because he's sitting next to this chick. And even if the roles were reversed and he, it was a male factor infertility, because I think we often just see it's the woman, or society says it's the woman's fault, or it says a lot of people DM'd me, no lie, saying, oh my goodness, I wish my husband could just come on board. I was glad. I remember a lady saying to me, the only reason my husband has agreed or his mind has changed is because he saw your husband sharing his story. And I was like, this is exactly what I was talking about. I could not have been so far-fetched to realize that, because of a lot of times people go on and just say, it's a woman. Hey, the women, they like to talk. They're talking. They're just still talking. But I just think to myself, I'm telling you, like, where you think to yourself, it's so important for people to have the right sort of picture of it, because Itai, not at any point did he think, oh no, I'm not in this. Oh no, we're not doing this together, or whatever it was. Or, oh no, I'm not on board. He was like through and through, like with me on board with regards to this whole thing. So for me, the impact that it had, I remember as we were talking about it with the Thai, I said, I don't think I ever stopped and said to you, are you okay? Or how are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was all about, and I said to him, I think the only energy that I had was to try and keep myself okay. Mm-hmm. So yes, and as much as we're going through this and we're sitting in there, and I'm just probably thinking in my head, oh, this is me again. I'm going in for another surgery. This is me again. I'm going in for another DNC. This is me again. I have to take the injections. This is really, really painful. This is really, really crappy. I would like to do all sorts of things, but I can't because I'm timing this and I'm timing that, and this is not working out. And it was all on me. I don't think I had the capacity to even stop to say, we're going through this together. Let me just ask the other guy, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And I literally said, I think what I lacked was the capacity to be able to actually do that for you emotionally because of just what I was going through. I remember sharing and saying, what this does, and I remember laughing and I said, what I knew, in the what I wish I knew, that, listen here, we're about to go military in the sense of, this is not making love. I literally wrote that. I said, this is not making love. This is baby making. There's two different things. When we make love is when, I don't know, when people are just like, oh, I kind of like you today, you kind of look hot. That is, infertility is not that when you're trying to, And I remember saying, what it did for our sex life was it became mechanical, or it became a means to an end. We are doing it because of the fact that I would like to have this baby. I remember Ola on one of the treatments that I said, oh no, it didn't work. It didn't work because after the whole treatment, paid for the cycle, this is a treated cycle, paid for all of that. And I remember that cycle cost me probably about 5,000 Rand. And I remember the nurse, with the fertility specialists, they always have the nurses and the nursing coordinators who coordinate the stuff. And I remember she says, okay, today is the day you go on and and have sex. I remember getting home, and all I could think of the whole entire day was, oh my goodness, so today's the day. Oh my goodness, so today's the day. The pressure.
No pressure, especially for your husband, eh?
But listen, I felt the pressure.
It's interesting, right?
I felt the pressure to the point where I was like, I just can't. So now I was worked up by myself because I'm thinking, I've just spent X amount of money. I'm sitting here and I'm going, no, we can't do it because I just can't. Mentally, physically, everything just shut down and I could not. So I think for me, it changed the dynamics of that, of sex, like for a very long time with regards to it, because of the fact that for so long, for years, you don't realize that you've done this for years. That is that, or where you're thinking, no, let's not have it today because guess what happens? You need to renew your stuff by this time. So therefore, I'm not like
it's crazy.
Yes, like literally you're driven crazy to the point where I'm like, I don't know how you would come out on the other end and you would not have shifted something in it. It probably shifted to some point where it's like the two of you are believing in a cause and you're pulling in the same direction because you're both wanting this. Yeah. So it was a good pull, to say you're pulling together. It was just knowing that your other person is there for you. They support you on the good days, on the bad days where you're feeling really, really crappy. Or whatever it is. So there were some parts of it that you're like, if there's one thing I remember saying was, if I had known that this would have been like what it would, land up doing or whatever it is, I would have sought therapy for the both of us to be able just to go on and process what you're going through. You're going through the most, and half the time you're probably just like, you know what, I just want to be in my room. I don't want to go out anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I just want to just shut out the world. I wish someone would have said to me, oh no, if you go for therapy, that would be a brilliant thing. And I remember after the IVF and after having Ariko, I remember Itai and I started going for therapy. And that was the best thing that, we did for ourselves, because I think to myself, on some level, it helped to sort of just rejig or whatever it is, the unit, if you know what I mean. So
Wow.
That's what it did for me.
Wow. You definitely highlighted so many important factors. Wow. It's amazing. And even the fact that when I spoke about no pressure on your husband, because, many times when people are trying to have sex at a certain time, the focus is on the man being able to do anything because of so much pressure. But then I never actually thought about the pressure on the woman as well. And you think, oof, I can't do this right now. So it's interesting to note that. And also wonderful that you went for therapy, because again, I don't know about Zimbabwe or South Africa, but in Nigeria for sure, people don't really want to talk about therapy. And if they're doing it, they're doing it quietly, because then they want people to perceive them as something is wrong with you for seeking therapy. But of course, IVF and the whole fertility treatment is a huge deal. Like you highlighted, it has such a huge impact on yourself, on your husband, on the couple, your relationship. So it is a wonderful idea to seek therapy just to help you manage those emotions. So well done for doing that, and also for continuing to do to seek therapy, because again, we all need it for different reasons. So thank you. And yourself, I know we spoken about how it impacted your relationship, and thankfully it impacted both of you in a positive way. Do you think infertility changed you as a person? You think it really
like different? I said, I think I am different. I don't take, I think, things for granted.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, it's just yet another thing. It isn't. It's the other day I was dancing with my son so he's into this whole thing. Like, he remembers songs. If I play a song, you'll hear him sing it to himself when he's bathing by himself, or when we just feel like, listen here, you can just play in the water. We'll just take you out. You've bathed. Let's all count that as a bath. But I was dancing to the song that I used to sing. That I used to call one of my anthems. I had anthems just to pump yourself up, to be like, listen, this is going to work. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper. Let's do this. I can't even remember the song right now, but it was one of my playlists. I always say I must share that on my Instagram to say what was your playlist. But it was
share, please.
I will share. So it was that, and literally, we're dancing, right? So I pick you up and I say, oh no, let's dance. And he obliges. I always say he's me, he's not my husband. If I say to my husband, let's dance, he'll be like, no, I would like to just sit. So I always say, I'm glad that he's got that bit of me. And I was dancing, and tears just were streaming down my face, because I was just looking and I was thinking, oh my goodness, how, like that cry before this would not have thought, oh my goodness, can we just stop and take a moment and just live in this present, just to go on and see just God and what he does. So for me, really, what has it shifted for me, or how has it changed me, is that I don't take stuff for granted. I don't think it just comes easy. I go out and just say, I would appreciate it every single day. The fact that I run, I get out in the morning and I go for my run. I love that. I run with Ariko in the pram. Oh, Ariko, are you going to run today? No, I'm going to sit in the pram. Okay, cool. I guess I'm running, I'm pushing. But it's the simplest of things that I absolutely appreciate, because of just this, and saying, I guess I've given God his rightful place that says he reigns over everything.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what it's done for me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And do you have any one quote or word of affirmation that helped you during your journey that you'd like to share with anyone else listening?
Would I say one word or a quote? Am I part of the affirmation gang? I don't think I'm one of those. Like my sister was saying the other day, do you have what's your word for 2021? I was like, listen, you're gonna drive me crazy. It's gonna take me 365 days trying to figure out which word is mine this year. Like I just don't hear God in that wavelength. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, no, I'm not. What's the one word? I think it's the whole thing about the fact that God keeps his promises.
Beautiful.
I think is that like literally every other thing, like what I was saying to you, the whole you're a promise keeper, just to think to yourself, lately, because I guess it's at the beginning of the year, if you've ever done the whole Bible in 1 year
I always
devotional,
plan it, but I'm not sure how far I get. But yeah, I plan it.
No, can I tell you, I'm on day. My sister said to me the other day, I said, "Oh, today's today's devotion was this, that." And she goes, "Correct, that was a couple of days ago." I said, "Listen here, God is saying as long as you're on it. I haven't fallen off the wagon. I know it's day 18 or 20 according to the calendar, but right now I'm on day 13, and that's okay." But right at the beginning of Genesis and stuff, there's a lot of stories with regards to infertility. It's your Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
It's today's reading. I remember thinking, oh, it was Rachel, where it said, "Oh no, God did not give her children and gave them to Leah," and a lot of different people who in the Bible were suffered from infertility. But the one thing that God did was to say, whether it was 99 years for somebody, whether it was X amount of years, eventually, because he said, I'm the God who goes in and keeps promises. So he is that. So I think for me, the affirmation was just to say, if you say to Abraham, what he promised him is the exact same thing that he's promising me because I'm his descendant. Surely you will see for it to come to pass. And so I think for me, it was just, the whole promise thing. He keeps those promises.
Yes,
he's not like man that he should lie. So exactly. I hope that was, you said a quote and I heard the whole paragraph.
Hey, you know what I mean? You encouraged us. That's what matters. That's what matters. Yeah. And if there's anyone out there listening, maybe listening, currently going through infertility, maybe the woman by herself or a couple listening, do you have any words of encouragement that you'd like to share with them or use to encourage them?
I think I would just say, keep the faith. Yes. Because that's what I only know. Is just keep the faith. That day when I said to you, I came back and I said, I want to go give God one more chance. Well, I mean, who am I? I'm human. Look at me giving God chances. But yeah, I remember the song that I was singing it's called A Pocket Full of Faith. Because on that day, I didn't have faith that was like big, like it wasn't big. And I thought to myself, I'm getting goosebumps. Just the thought of just saying, keep the faith, because all I had on that day was a pocket full of faith. Not even a truckload, not even everything in me is saying this, but this is all I've got, because that was the only thing that I had. I knew no matter how much, because the doctor already said, listen here, let's just take the methotrexate and let's get it on. Like, let's move on. Yeah. But I was just saying, to man, it might look like it's impossible, but to a God who owns everything and who owns creation and who's seated, like I said, who's not pacing up and down heaven, what is a pregnancy? Keep the faith.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karai. You have shared so many wonderful having you on here has been a blessing. You shared so many nuggets, so many words of wisdom, so many important things that would help us all and encourage us. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. Thank you for all the hard work you do in raising awareness in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in the whole of Africa, across the world, because you might think it's just one video, one post, but you are reaching a whole lot of people all around the world. I mean, we met through your post, and I really loved it, all your work and everything you're doing. So thank you so much for being brave, because it does take bravery in anywhere in the world, but certainly in Africa, it does take a lot of bravery to come out and share your story and to so openly. So thank you so much for encouraging us all, and for letting other people watching or reading silently know that they're not alone and this doesn't define them, and for also encouraging your husband to be a part of it, because like you rightfully said, in many times in Nigeria and Africa, I'm sure, and even across the world, many times the focus is on the woman. Yeah. But we all know that it's not just the woman that decides or determines if he can have a baby or not. It's both the man and the woman. So thank you and thank you to your husband also for coming out and being okay with having those discussions and, encouraging other people. Thank you so much, Karai. It's been a wonderful experience having you on here.
Thank you so much, Ola. It was great being here. And yeah, it's exactly like what you're saying. The community can only grow stronger if more of us go on and speak out. And like what you do, it's it's one of those where you're thinking to yourself, you're at it, you're consistent, you're always just out there. Like you are literally going, listen here, there's this, and there's another thing, and there's another thing. Don't you want to go on this one? Don't you want to, but it's just that way. It's like, because of the fact that I just think we're probably doing it to pay forward, but just the stuff that you do, that it's, exactly right back at you for everything that you've said. But thank you so much for having me on your platform.
Thank you, Karai, and we hope to have you again in the near future. Thank you.
Yeah, we should do this again.
Yes, for sure.
And people should also join us on Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, we need that for sure.
Yes.
Clubhouse is amazing.
It is.
Someone introduced me. The lady sent me. Yeah, she sent me like an invite from Instagram. And I just, it's just amazing when you realize how much can be done.
Yeah.
And how many people you can reach out to and reach all around the world.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Cool, man. Thanks,
For
Ola.
sure. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Fertility Conversations podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Fertility Conversations. If there are any topics you would like to have discussed, please send an email to fertilityconversations@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. Thank you again for listening. Take care of yourself and do stay hopeful.